PGA Tour Champions Learning Center. Brought to you by Tour Edge Exotics.
Hi again, everyone, and welcome to Learning Center. I'm Vince Cellini, and I hope you are safe and well wherever you may be viewing us. And by us, I mean myself and this man who's a four-time PGA Tour champion and also the winner of the 2018 Mitsubishi Electric Classic. Mr. Steve Flesch is with us. Fleshy, how are you?
I'm doing great, Vince. Glad to be with you today in these surreal times, I guess.
I know it's a little different, that's for sure. It's a lot different, actually. And I'll start you off with a question I've been asking all of the guys. How are you coping with the quarantine? But you may be a little better off than most because you've been able to get out a little bit, have you not?
Yeah, it's been, I can't say it's been difficult. We're lucky to do what we do for a living, but for sure, anytime anybody's not doing their job, what they normally do, it's unsettling. But fortunately in Kentucky, the courses are still open. Kentucky's actually been dealing very well with the corona. Our cases are still less than 2,000, I guess, and not a lot of deaths. So it's just strange, when you're used to traveling 25, 26 weeks for a living, and all of a sudden now you're at home. Everything's unsettled, but I'm lucky I play golf for a living. I know we'll get back to this, and let's just hope it ends soon.
Yeah, so you've been able to actually play a little golf, right, in practice?
Yeah, our course is open. I'm able to play. They're cutting tee times back a little bit. I guess half the number of tee times per hour, which a lot of members aren't happy about because they're just trying to space people out. But, it's great exercise. I think it's a great way for people to get out of their homes and stay safe. But I've been practicing a little bit. But the unsettling thing is, I don't know when I'm practicing for my next event. So the motivation's, it's not gone, but when you don't know when you're going to be back playing again, it's, the urgency is not there. But hopefully in two months or so, we might get back. Who knows? But just trying to take it easy and get through this.
Yeah, and that was leading to my next question, which is the COVID-19 pandemic has made for these changes on PGA Tour Champions schedule with postponements and cancellations. And rather than try to figure this out, I guess you have to stay in the moment and just stay focused and patient. And how hard has that patience and focus been for you? And what are your thoughts on trying to salvage what we can from the schedule?
Well, patience has never been a strong suit of mine. I definitely missed that line when I was getting bored. But I hope, with COVID-19 that somehow we're on the downturn and we're able to get back in 2 to 3 months. I know as of now we're looking July maybe in Akron as our first week back. If all goes well, the American family, which was scheduled for the first week of June, might be pushed back now till later in June. If the president deems, hey, we're on the downturn and we can get back to work. But this off season is longer than our normal off season. We usually don't finish till mid-November. Then we're back up first week of January. So that's only like a month and a half. We're looking at 3 months now. So it's twice the time. And I was thinking about that this morning. Like, this is crazy. Like, I don't know what to do with all this time, but it's not the worst thing in the world. I'm hoping we get back in July, but I'm trying to stay in shape, stay busy. I've had to size up because I am eating quite a bit more. But it's okay. It's that's my best advice for everybody. Size up. We'll get back to normal soon enough. But size up. I'm hoping we get back. I fear we might not, but who knows? I'm just trying to keep best thoughts right now.
Well, I understand you've had some pretty conventional ways of keeping or staying busy, or at least occupying your time, but then some unconventional ways of occupying your time too. Can you share that with us?
I'm now into dog grooming. We have a little 15-pound dog who, it's a Shih Tzu mix, but her hair grows quickly, so we're trying to keep her from being shaggy. So I ventured into that. They'll have all my fingers. She gets a little testy sometimes when I get down to her paws, but and Netflix. We're just killing Netflix right now. We're watching all kinds of series and just, I'm not trying to go outside because I think outside is healthy to, walk and ride. I've been riding the bike a little bit and whatnot, but trying to avoid the big box stores like everybody else. I've gone to the grocery and, Lowe's and a few other places to get some stuff, but they're busier, honestly, than the golf courses. So, I think the golf course is a safe haven. I know it's not reality with maybe everybody in the country, but to me, it's my refuge for sanity. I feel like if I can get an hour or two a day on the golf course with COVID-19, it's a for me. But, if the governor of Kentucky deems that to not be, a productive place, then we'll make do. But right now, fortunately, in Kentucky, they're allowing us to get out and practice. And between the dog grooming and Netflix and eating a lot, I'm staying plenty busy.
Steve Flesch, dog grooming. I can just see that this might be another avenue for you down the line.
Hey, who knows? Yeah.
But you mentioned an interesting point, and that is with golf. Do you feel like golf, whether it's amateur or pro, should be looked at differently in terms of the blanket stay-at-home strategy? And if so, why or why not? And I think you touched on that a little bit.
Well, it's because of the spacing more than anything. I mean, as we know, we're trying to, social distance, and that's the new tag word and everything. But, anywhere you go, if an activity like gyms, I mean, obviously proximity can be an issue in a gym, but I think people can be, very socially responsible even in a gym. But I guess the germs in there on the equipment is a serious issue. But I think with golf, along with tennis, it's individual and you can create your own space. You don't have to have contact with anybody. So I think golf, I mean, I'm not trying to exempt it from all, stay at home, guidelines, but I think it's a great way for people to get, healthy, productive exercise. And I'm a big proponent through all this COVID-19 of just, social responsibility. You got to, at some point, put it on the individual people to take care of themselves, and I know the government can dictate which way we're going to go, where we can and can't go. But at some point, the individuals have to be responsible for themselves. And, it can't all be dictated by closing everything. The world needs to go on, and hopefully we would get back soon. Yeah.
So you're seeing that you think an open for business strategy has to be or should be incorporated as soon as we can. I mean, that's what we're all waiting for.
I do. And, there's the models are, hard to predict, and scientists are having trouble with that. But I think at some point you got to put it on the population of the world and act responsibly. I'm not saying one way is better than another, but if you're susceptible, if you're at risk to it. I mean, my parents are 80 years old. I mean, they have to be very mindful of what's going on. But the younger generation, yes, we can carry it. But if we still practice social responsibility and everything, I think the world can get back to moving in a positive direction. And the stalemate, everything's on the way down according to, what some of the models say in terms of infections. But, hey, we're America. We need to get back and moving. And I know that's my political thought about it. But I think nothing's good is going to come out of a 3-month shutdown. I think, yes, the deaths are horrible. I'm not trying to diminish them at all. But the effect that it's having on the other, 7.5 billion people in the world could be more catastrophic than the actual virus itself.
So what are you hearing from inside your own tour? If you return, what do you think life will be like there? What type of responsibility? What checkpoints will take place? What are some of those questions?
Wow, that's a great question. We've had a few PAC calls, Players Advisory Council, just finding what tournaments are suspending, what tournaments are trying to reschedule. And the nice thing about our PGA Tour Champions is we have the flexibility in our schedule with off weeks to maybe reschedule events later in the year, right. Which means a lot to the players because the tournaments aren't just wanting to scrap because there's charitable, not so much obligations, but those communities rely on a lot of charitable dollars from our events. So we're all thrilled that they want to reschedule. Or not all, but at least half the tournaments have wanted to reschedule. So the big thing is when and who's going to be the first to jump back in the pool and what sponsor is going to be able to say, you know what, we're ready to take maybe the public relations risk of hey, we're willing to put our corporate name up and say we're back and we're going to play despite maybe some risk. But to get back, I wonder if at registration each week, every player, every staff member, including the physios and standard bearers and scorers, everybody has to be tested. And how far away from we being able to even do that, with convenient, a 5-minute test or an instant test. So the logistics of everybody flying to, just say it's Akron, Ohio is our first event in July, and everybody coming off planes from California, Florida, New York, wherever, and everybody being safe and being, tested and saying you're a go, you're not a go. I don't think we want guys to show up and say, oh, by the way, you failed, you can't play.
Right,
so at what
right.
point? I think that's a huge question mark. And I know Jay Monahan and Miller Brady, our president, that's what they got to weigh out. And I think they'll follow, obviously, the president's lead, governor's leads. At what point does America feel safe to go back? And, our tour is different. We can stay apart. We don't have to contact each other when we play, like football and baseball and whatnot. But at what point do you say, okay, everybody can be in the same room and eat next to each other and be in the locker room? And, it's a tough call. I don't know how that gets figured out.
Wow, that's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
As is the game itself. And that leads us to our weekly segment, What's Your Edge, presented by Tour Edge Exotics. So let's talk putting, and I want to talk about the technique, and I know you'll get into that. But what about the mental aspect of putting? And something that I know you know very, very well, given it's something you've dealt with through the course of your great professional career, maybe even before that.
Yeah, Vince. It's not something I really talked about much or shared with a lot of people, but this goes all the way back into my college days. I say that my left hand started betraying me in my putting stroke. And that's the word betray is something that a colleague of mine, Paul Azinger at Fox Sports, Fox Golf, kind of used because, people who fight the yips throughout their career comes on. One hand usually is what kind of starts it all. And with me, my left hand, I go all the way back to a tournament I played in college in Memphis at Woodstock Hills. I was on the 17th hole. I had a 3-footer and somehow it limped in. But the actual stroke I made, I was like, wait a minute, something felt really bad and off there. And I felt like my hand kind of quivered throughout the stroke. Even though it went in, I was like, oh man, what was that? And usually, something like that happens because you have to make a correction in your stroke or whatever, but it just felt weird. So my yips or flinches or whatever you have, however you want to describe them, have gone all the way back to my college age. Before I even got on tour. And somehow over the course of my career for 20 something years now, I've managed to keep them at bay enough to have success and not lose my card and have enough success where I've made a living out of this. But, it's one of those things where I've switched methods, I've switched putters, I've switched grips, thoughts, anything I could do to try and get this thing figured out and, or at least piecemeal it together week to week. And sometimes I get it going well for a month or so at a time. And then it's weird because sometimes the more comfortable I get is when it creeps in, when I kind of lose track of what my putting thought or my method is or my mechanics. So that's kind of how I got to using all these different methods and techniques, because it was a way for me to trick my mind out of what was really going on and trying to focus on what I was really trying to do. So I would guys would ask me, why do you switch putters so much? Why are you putting cross-handed now? Claw this, long putter this week, belly putter next week. And it was more my way of dealing with what was going on. It wasn't like I was going to come out and say, hey, everybody, I got the yips and this is what I'm doing. I'm just, to me, like it's an ego thing. You're basically admitting a weakness, and with what we do, you don't want to ever admit you got a weakness. But to me, that's what I was doing. I was trying to figure it out.
Did you seek help for this?
Well, I read a lot of books. I actually talked to Hank Haney quite a bit, who has studied the yips and why all this goes on. And I got a hold of a book by Dr. Eric Kaplan, who talks about how to he's worked with Parkinson's patients because they have constant shaking, and how to get them to putt with a method that kind of eliminates a lot of the face angle disruption and whatnot, which goes along with shaky hands. So, he talks about using the big muscles, getting the stroke into the basically the last three fingers of each hand, because like these pincher fingers, they're the problem. They're the ones that make the club head twist and turn and whatnot. If they kind of, I say spasm or grab, they're the ones who cause the face to turn. So if you can employ these last three fingers as much as possible and employ the bigger muscles in your back and your torso, it allows you to make a more repetitive stroke. And when I do that and grip the putter properly and get the putter to what I call like hovering off the ground, like Ricky Fowler does so well. Once you just lift the putter ever so slightly off the ground, it can be where you feel like it's just resting on the top of the grass. It's easier then to employ the bigger muscles in your shoulders and your back and your chest and torso, whatever, to where they're driving the stroke instead of the little muscles driving it. When I would get very comfortable and feel like I was putting well is when all the feel went into my hands. My left hand was basically everything to me. I throw with my left hand. All my feel is in my left hand. I bowl with my left hand. And that's kind of the motor of my stroke. Everybody wants to say it's in the shoulders, but one hand is definitely going to feel more dominant than the other. So to me, my left hand is the engine, but unfortunately it's the one who had the hiccup. So I have to figure out how to manage the hiccup all the time. And through using some of Dr. Kaplan's techniques, keeping my hands higher, hovering the putter a little bit, and employing the bigger muscles, that is what I need to focus on. But it's a constant battle. It's a mental struggle for sure. But, it's easy to say go out and putt with confidence. But you know what? Unfortunately, with golf and with putting, unless that ball is going in the hole, it's hard to make a really confident stroke. So that was kind of what I was dealing with.
Yeah, it's just a matter of trying to, I would think, keep that monster in the cage, keep him locked up and keep him away from you and the rest of your game. So what do you say we go and we roll a few? Can we do that?
Sounds great. Let's do it.
All right, good.
I have just an angle board here set up, and this is another version of that. This is the putting arc, and this is the Hank Haney angle board. When I practice at home, I always do something like that. I call it the dummy props, because they just kind of help you make a better stroke and you don't have to think about it, but it helps you feel the alignment of the face more and how it should work properly. So when I do practice at home, this is my wintertime setup, because normally I just put this away about this time of year because I don't need it. I can go outside. But like I was talking about wrist angles and getting the stroke into my torso, a doctor named Eric Kaplan came up with a way to help people with Parkinson's whose hands shake incessantly, trying to stabilize the putter in your hands. So he talks about locking your forearms, your biceps against your chest, bending down from the waist and keeping your hands in basically the putter running through your forearm on that line to where everything's in a straight line. And when you go down, your front wrist will be in a little higher position. So that kind of gets everything locked in. And then I feel like if I just hover the putter a little bit, now I feel like the control has been put up into my upper back muscles. And from there, I just think tempo, rocking my back and through to where the hands aren't in it. To me, I got to get the hands out of it. And that to me is how I've done it. Now, I've putted with I've gone cross-handed like this. I've gone conventional with my, what they call the over 40 finger down the shaft, like Brooks Koepka putts like that. Ian Poulter, who's a great putter, uses that, the index finger on the bottom hand extended down. And when you look at the yips, the fingers that cause the yips basically are your pinchers. So if you can somehow get these stupid thumbs and these index fingers out of the stroke, these last three fingers are more stable. They don't affect the face of the putter as much because they don't increase tension. These pincher fingers will increase tension on the putter. So all these, the over 40 finger down the shaft, guys putting with the claw, basically, Phil Mickelson, he uses his extended index finger so it can't grab like this. extended his index finger. Then he's got this index finger in the claw over top, so it can't grab. If you can just consciously use the last three fingers of each hand to putt, you'll significantly reduce face twist and angle. So that's really all I've done. I use these three fingers in my top hand, finger down the shaft. I do claw sometimes to basically take the hit out of my left hand, which is my problem hand, hover the putter a little bit and go. And it works sometimes, not all the time. But to me, that's my thought. I know I should consciously but be mindful of that. Sometimes you get out there and you just get playing and you just start feeling it. And to me, every once in a while, one creeps in and then mentally I freak out a little bit. So that's what I have to do to try and cope with what I've done. I've tried long putter. It's fine, but now that you can't technically anchor, it's a whole different animal. And in wind, I don't know how guys putt with a long putter in the wind. It's very difficult because it's such a big mechanism. It's so heavy. But to me, I want to use the short guy. I want to stick back, go to my routines. I feel like I run the tables more. And, you do what you do, but somehow I've made it work for 20 years, and I'm very thankful.
Oh, Fleshy, such good stuff. I so appreciate that. That was wonderful. So if we can get you back in production assistant mode again, so
Okay.
I can get this thing wrapped up. And while you're doing that, I can even talk to you about the fact that this week you were supposed to be at TPC Sugarloaf in Duluth, Georgia, where, of course, you're a past champion, as we see over your shoulder in that photo.
Look at that right there.
Mitsubishi Electric Classic. Great win for you. Last year, you come back after the neck surgery and you have 2/3. You got 7 top 10s, and you had a top 10 at the Hogue as well. So is it putting? Do you feel like you're close when we get back? You're close to winning again?
The Hogue was my first top 10 of the year, and putting is what killed me the first 3 events. And I don't want it to sound like I don't work on it, because obviously that's my weakness. I've always hit it well. It's easy to go practice and work on just ball striking. Everybody likes to practice what they do well, but you got to practice what you're bad at. So, I worked on it, but I just wasn't quite comfortable. And the Hogue was a step in the right direction. But when I come back, I have a fresh set of ideas, and I'm getting a lot of great work done. But last year the tournament that really hurt was the Pure Insurance at Pebble Beach. I had the lead 2 shots going to the 10th hole, and I putted awful on the back 9. I didn't hit it great, but then I putted horribly as well, and that one really stung because I had that tournament under control. And when I go back and look at it afterward, it was putting, because the putting creeps all the way back into your ball striking. If you don't know if you can, get it up and down and make a 4-footer, now you got your pressure to hit the green in regulation, and that works back to you got to hit it in the fairway. So putting creeps all the way back to the daggone tee box, and then it's in your head too. So that's my struggle. The first step is admitting it, but I'm working on it, and it's been a struggle since, like I said, in my 20s. But I enjoy it. I love the game. I miss it. I can't wait to get back, and hopefully throughout all this, here in a couple of months, we'll be back to some sense of normalcy. But I certainly miss it, and I miss my peers. I miss being out there and playing the Tuesday practice rounds with my buddies Paul Goidos and Kevin Sutherland, and seeing everybody on the range and the guys in the equipment truck and yourself. And I think everybody just wants to get back to work and get back to a sense of normalcy, and hopefully we get to do that soon.
Yeah, I hope so too. You're such a great asset to the tour. I enjoy spending time with you. You become a good friend, and just all the guys. Everybody's so great, and that's the part that we all miss, of course, in the game itself. So last but not least, before I let you go, it's business as usual for the NFL. So we've got the draft coming up next weekend. I know you're a big Cincinnati Bengals fan. We're all looking for some hope in this time. How big is it having that number 1 pick? And obviously, all signs point to Joe Burrow picking the quarterback out of LSU.
Well, let's hope. I'm a big Bengals fan, yes, but man, it's frustrating to be a Bengals fan. I mean, geez, Louise, with Andy Dalton, he was effective, but who knows with the management, what's going on there. But I saw they maxed out their time with visiting with Joe Burrow. I don't know what that means, I guess pre-draft. So, there's a whole nother set of questions that come along if we do draft him. What changes? Does the offense change? I mean, can you rely on a rookie to come in and be the savior? I mean, it's going to take some time, but I hope they take him. I nothing against Andy Dalton, but I just think it's time for a change. I mean, we haven't won a playoff game and we haven't won a first-round playoff game in 7 tries in the latest tenure. So let's hope. I think the city itself needs some newfound hope. I think the ownership needs to gain some trust in the fan base by taking Joe Burrow and make it look like they're moving forward. So, hey, is one guy going to change everything? I don't know. I mean, you got to have a lot of factors. You know way more about football than I do, but everybody's got to do their part. But I think, hey, a fresh face behind that line might help. I'm sure. I mean, the guy's good, man. He's fun to watch. But I hope they take Joe Burrow. I hope the Bengals gain the trust of the city more than anything. But honestly, I miss baseball now. I mean, it's Reds season here in Cincinnati, and I'm a big Reds fan. So I miss baseball. I want, as everybody does, wants the country to get back to moving. And I know you know this. Sports drives the week. I mean, you think like, okay, Saturday, Sunday, it's the final round of the PGA Tour and Champions Tour playing. Throughout the week, you've got NBA, you got, baseball going on right now. I don't know what day it is because I don't know what sports are on anymore. I don't even look. Right. I just go straight to Netflix. I don't look at, hey, what's on, what NBA game's on tonight, what baseball game's on tonight. I think people have lost their sense of time throughout all this. So I want sports to come back. Yes, it's selfish, but I want sports to come back. I want people to get back to work. I want the country to thrive. And I think if we could get back to that, the world will be a better place right now.
Yeah, well said, Steve. Great spending time with you. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon, my friend, okay?
Vince, let's hope it's soon. Thanks.
Yeah, stay safe.
Okay.